major new names are emerging from the recently released Jeffrey Epstein documents, and this time, the spotlight is pointing directly at some of the biggest figures in music history. For decades, Jeffrey Epstein's name has been associated with wealth, secrecy, and the exploitation of power. His network stretched across politics, finance, academia, and entertainment. While much of the public attention has centered on politicians and billionaires, recent discussions suggest that the entertainment world, particularly music, may not be as distant from this web as once believed. At the center of this renewed debate is Sean Jay-Z Carter, one of the most influential figures in modern music. It is critical to state clearly, there has been no criminal conviction related to Epstein involving Jay-Z. What exists instead are allegations, claims, and testimonies from individuals who say their experiences deserve closer examination in light of newly unsealed documents. One of the most vocal figures in this discussion is Gene Deal, a former bodyguard closely associated with high-profile artists during the height of the hip-hop industry's rise. Deal has publicly claimed that scenes he personally witnessed now appear to align with details emerging from the Epstein files. According to Deal, these were not isolated or ambiguous encounters, but moments that, in hindsight, raise serious ethical and moral concerns. He asserts that what once seemed like unchecked celebrity behavior now looks disturbingly consistent with patterns seen in Epstein's broader operation. Deal's statements are particularly striking because they frame long-standing rumors as something more concrete, connecting industry gossip to an official federal investigation. In his words, this is no longer about internet speculation, but about whether powerful individuals were protected by a system designed to shield influence at all costs. Adding fuel to the conversation is singer Jaguar Wright, who for years has accused the music industry of protecting predatory behavior behind closed doors. Wright has repeatedly alleged that Jay-Z operated within a culture that normalized exploitation, especially of young female artists. Her claims are controversial, often dismissed by industry insiders, yet they persist, and now intersect with a broader public reckoning. Wright frequently references the early career of Rihanna, whose rise to fame has long been told as a Cinderella story of talent and opportunity. However, Wright highlights elements of that story that deserve scrutiny. Rihanna, originally from Barbados, traveled to the United States at age 16 to meet Jay-Z, reportedly without her parents present. In interviews, Rihanna herself has described the intensity of that meeting, being alone for hours in a high-pressure environment, facing relentless questioning and expectations, leaving the room emotionally overwhelmed and physically shaking. There is no public allegation of criminal conduct stemming from that meeting. Still, critics argue that the situation itself reflects an industry culture where extreme power imbalances were normalized. A teenage girl alone with one of the most powerful executives in music raises questions, not just about legality, but about responsibility and safeguarding. According to Wright, Rihanna's experience was not unique. She has named other artists, including Foxy Brown and Inger Moran, alleging that they were shaped into overtly sexualized public personas while still minors. Wright claims that explicit lyrics and adult branding were imposed on teenage girls by older men who controlled their careers, finances, and futures. These claims, while unproven in court, point to a broader pattern of exploitation critics say has plagued the industry for decades. The conversation inevitably turns to Beyoncé, whose relationship with Jay-Z has been presented publicly as beginning when she was an adult. However, Gene Deal has challenged this official timeline, stating that he remembers seeing a much younger Beyoncé in adult nightlife spaces alongside Jay-Z when he was already well into his 30s. Deal poses a difficult question: if a young artist is not legally a child, but still underage for the environment she is placed in, who is responsible for protecting her? These questions are uncomfortable, but they reflect a growing demand for accountability, not just for individual actions, but for the systems that enabled them. Another name that repeatedly surfaces in these discussions is Aaliyah. Her tragic death at a young age froze her legacy in time, but her life and career continue to raise unresolved questions. Dame Dash, a former Rockefeller executive and someone deeply connected to Aaliyah, has openly expressed anger over Jay-Z's decision to collaborate with R. Kelly after allegations against Kelly were already widely known within the industry. Dash has stated that this decision represented a moral line he could not cross. In his view, continuing to work with someone accused of exploiting a minor, especially someone Aaliyah herself had been connected to, was indefensible. Dash has said this ethical divide ultimately drove him away from Rockefeller, despite the financial cost. For him, walking away was not just a business decision, but a matter of personal integrity. Beyond music, the Epstein documents reveal how far his influence extended. Draft emails attributed to Epstein's suggest he may have attempted to leverage sensitive personal information against figures like Bill Gates. One particularly controversial draft references a private medical matter. Whether these documents were intended as blackmail, leverage, or merely unverified drafts remains debated, but they reinforce a disturbing theme. In Epstein's world, secrets were currency. This leads to one of the most pressing questions surrounding the Epstein case. Who exactly was he working for? Some analysts reviewing the documents believe Epstein's behavior bears hallmarks of intelligence-style operations. They point to communications where Epstein appeared to deliberately distance himself from Israeli intelligence agency Mossad, something experts note is often done by intelligence assets to deflect suspicion. The theory suggests Epstein may have been operating as part of a larger blackmail apparatus, designed to entrap powerful individuals and collect compromising material for leverage. Under this framework, Epstein was not merely a lone predator, but a facilitator, someone who provided access, luxury, and secrecy in exchange for control. Whether or not this theory is ultimately proven, it underscores the scale and sophistication of his operation. This was not just about a private island, it was about building a global system where influence could be bought, sold, and weaponized. For celebrities whose names are now circulating alongside these documents, the implications are serious. Even without criminal charges, association with such allegations can permanently alter public perception. Gene Deal believes that the traditional defenses, elite legal teams, public relations strategies, and non-disclosure agreements may no longer be enough. The sheer volume of documents, testimonies, and corroborating narratives is changing the landscape. At its core, blackmail is about control. For years, that control silenced victims and protected the powerful, but every document release weakens that grip. Individuals who once felt isolated are finding support in numbers and in evidence. The balance of power, slowly but undeniably, is shifting. The Epstein story is ultimately a lesson in how unchecked power corrupts, and how fame, wealth, and cultural influence can act as the perfect camouflage. It reveals how systems meant to celebrate talent and success can also conceal exploitation when accountability is absent. Some secrets are too vast, too interconnected to remain buried forever. And as more pieces of this puzzle emerge, the public is left to confront an unsettling truth. The stories we are told about power are often carefully curated, while the real stories unfold in the shadows. If this deep dive into the alleged connections between the music industry's elite and the Epstein network helped you see the bigger picture, consider supporting independent analysis by liking and sharing this work, and subscribe for Keep Connecting the Dots others prefer to ignore.
It's all a part of this Epstein file. Uncle Luke had Jay-Z on the couch and he had the girls off there freaking off while he was watching and everything. Jay couldn't take his eye off the girls now.
What do you think about Jeffrey
Epstein was a CIA Mossad asset that was recruited and was doing a blackmail operation.
Do you think if she could have the choice between getting the, what did she get, $50 billion, or not getting the syphilis?